The Eldora Million format is out, and we've got the bullet points plus Tuesday results for the Short Track Super Series and High Limit, and we'll talk about Kyle Larson's High Limit situation. Let's go. It's Wednesday, June 7th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is Dirt Tracker Daily. High Limit round number 5 is in the books, and we're just about halfway through this first 11 race season for the midweek series. They had an absolutely incredible crowd last night at Eagle Raceway near Lincoln, Nebraska, and the images were pretty wild. Massively full parking lot, and the crowd that gathered around Kyle Larson after the feature was big. Kudos to him for sticking around and taking the pictures and talking to people and signing the autographs and doing all of that. Nice to see, too, a Tuesday show like that draw such big support. I think there's a lot to unpack from the night, and I've got a question or two for you to ponder today about High Limit. The race ended up being the third straight series victory for Larson, and he's clearly in control at the moment. We'd had 4 different winners through the first 4 series events, but now that Larson is back racing the sprint car on a more regular basis, he's found his footing, and I think he's just that much better than the rest of the competition. I think there was some hope early on that this wouldn't turn into the Larson show every night, but that has definitely shifted pretty rapidly over the past 3 events. It's an interesting phenomenon with Young Money right now because we're very much witnessing one of the greatest to ever climb into a race car at his absolute peak. But one guy winning all the time can create some backlash. And it's made even more compelling by the fact that he's doing all this with a series he co-owns. It definitely shifts the dynamic a bit, and I've seen plenty of comments about how he either shouldn't be racing at all or he shouldn't be allowed to run for points. I've been told that when Tony Stewart was running all-star shows regularly, his own series people were not cool with him running for the championship. I don't know if I feel that way or not about this situation with Larson. You kind of expected that when he created a series that he was obviously going to be a part of it. I don't know that I have personally a big issue with him running these races. But I think that's the question for you today. Where do you stand on Larson running for the title in his own series? It's not in question that this thing was very much set up to accommodate his ability to run during the week, and he had a heavy hand in selecting which tracks were going to be on the schedule. He's never run for a sprint car championship before, and this is finally an opportunity for him to do that. But if he does eventually go on to the title, I'm wondering if we will look differently upon the accomplishment because of his ownership. I'm not really sure. And as much as I understand the move and think it's probably the right one for World Racing Group and the World of Outlaws, I do think it would be tougher on him and more fun to watch if Larson was up against all of the best sprint car drivers, instead of the full-time Outlaws being missing because of the restriction. I think it's a different game if Brad Sweet and David Gravel and Carson Macedo and Logan Schuchart and Sheldon Haudenschild and Donnie Schatz and all these guys are also standing in his way. Watching last night's feature, Rico Abreu led the first 17 laps from the pole before Brent Marks took over out front. I felt like Marks was probably the best car last night, probably could have held Larson off, but he ended up being a victim of the hole in turn 1 that caught out quite a few guys through the program. Marks hit that hole, started bouncing, and then ended up flipping while he was leading. That handed the top spot to Larson on the ensuing restart. It's been an interesting season for Marks here. We've talked about him a few times, kind of up and down, had some issues. I mean, he's clearly fast. Definitely think they're moving in the right direction, but just can't get the luck to go his way. Larson did have to hold off a pretty ferocious challenge from Rico in the closing laps, including multiple sliders, but he was able to get away after a failed slider from Rico with 4 to go. Rico led, kind of fell back through the field, and then I think got, working on his wing and changed his lines a little bit and was able to drive back up to the front. So Larson grabbed the win over Rico and a hard-charging Gio Scelzi, who went 17th to 3rd. There have been plenty of comments about how Larson should start in the rear for these races, but maybe instead of that, he should start up front. For the first 6 high limit shows, we haven't had a single winner come from the front row starters. We've had 2 wins from 3rd, 1 from 4th, 1 from 8th, and 1 from 9th. Also, and I think this is a tad nitpicky here, I'll admit that right off the top, but I did hear there were maybe some grumblings from teams regarding last night's pill draw procedure for qualifying. It was a split field night, and the high limit rulebook says that the top 10 in points are supposed to be seeded equally between the 2 groups. That was not the case with 3 top 10 runners on one side and 7 on the other. I'd be curious to hear an explanation from the series as to why this happened. This kind of goes back to everything that happened last week. When racers own a series, things like this have to be avoided. They just had potential fairness issues a week ago, and the conspiracy theorists will latch on to stuff like this. Looking ahead, the next high limit race isn't until July 25th at Grandview. Drop me your thoughts below on all the things we've kind of talked about here over the last couple of minutes. Elsewhere last night, there was heartbreak for Alex Payne with the short track Super Series. He was on his way to his first career Touring Series win, but made a mistake on the final lap and slid over the turn 2 cushion. That allowed Corey Costa to slip by and take the victory. Payne settled for second and was absolutely devastated afterwards. He's won before in weekly competition at Outlaw Speedway, but has yet to grab a victory with either the short track Super Series or the Super Dirt Car Series. The win for Costa was his first in-series competition. Matt Williamson was 4th on the night, while Matt Shepard ended up 11th after a late flat tire. Short Track Super Series is back in a few weeks at Devil's Bowl Speedway in Vermont. Moving on, Eldora Speedway dropped the format for the upcoming Eldora Million sprint car race. Wednesday will feature split field programs with drivers earning points through the night to set up heat races on Thursday. Heat races on Wednesday will feature an invert determined by a spin of the wheel. What do they call it? The Wheel of Misfortune. And then the night's features are $12,000 to win. Those prelim features will also have an invert based on the Wheel of Misfortune. So 2 inverts on the night heats and the feature. On Thursday, the top 3 from each of the 6 heats will advance to the Million, with everyone else headed for C's or the B. Top 6 from the B will tag the tail of the features, and then the drivers who advance from the heats will draw for starting positions in the main event. As heat winners will draw for spots 1 through 6. Second place heat runners will draw for positions 7 through 12, and then the third place heat runners will draw for positions 13 through 18. The main event is going to go 50 laps. That does include a break around lap 20. Eldora will also utilize the choose cone for all the restarts, so that should mix things up a bit, especially coming out of that break. Obviously, the choose cone has kind of become a big part of what High Limit has been doing. The event also has a special tire rule that includes teams having to buy specially marked tires at the track on both Wednesday and Thursday. That marked tire must be run in both qualifying and the feature on Wednesday, while teams have the option to use new marked Thursday tires for the heat to start the feature and at the break. Along with all of this, the entry process is open right now. Teams have until July 7th to take advantage of early entry benefits. The cost to enter the Eldora Million is $250. The track tweeted that Donnie Schatz was officially the first entrant. I've been asked a few times about what the car count could look like for the Million, and I honestly think I wouldn't expect much different than a normal Kings Royal weekend. The race does obviously pay $1 million to win, but it's $6,000 to start. That's certainly pretty good, but if you compare it to an event like the Knoxville Nationals, teams come from all over to that event because you can make decent money all week even if you don't run well. The first non-transfer car in the Saturday Knoxville B-Main gets $10,000. That's what a standard Outlaw show pays to win. I'd guess maybe we'll be into the 60s for the Million, I would guess. You can see all the details on the Million format and rules over at eldoraspeedway.com. Looking ahead to tonight, Indiana Midget Week continues at Gas City I-69 Speedway. Jacob Denny, Buddy Kofoid have won the 2 opening rounds, and Denny leads the week-long points over Kofoid and Jade Avedisium. Kofoid has won the 2 previous trips to Gas City, while Cannon McIntosh was a winner there in 2020. I don't know that there's any reason to believe Kofoid won't be near the front again tonight. If you can't get to Gas City, all of the USAC shows can be watched live over on Flow Racing. In Dirt Racing Podcast Land this week, Wing Nation is talking the Sprint Car Hall of Fame. Loud Pedal is previewing Indiana Midget Week and Ohio Sprint Speed Week. Open Red has Noah Gass. Passing Points has Tanner Kahn. QuickTime has Tyler Drucke. Dirt Tracks and Rib Racks has Brian Hayden and Ivan Glotzback. All Gas No Brakes has Dale McDowell and more. Dunwich on Dirt has Matt Gilbert and Austin Sosby. And there are new episodes of The Dirt Reporters from Dirt on Dirt, The Dirt Nerds, Dirt Track Confession, Hoagie's Garage, Dirt Track Weekly, and Non-Wing Worldwide. To see all of the shows and episodes, head over to dirttracker.com/podcasts. That's it for the show today. Make sure to check out today's streaming schedule over at dirttracker.com if you are in the market for something to watch tonight. Hope you guys have a good Wednesday out there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.